Good morning, Zero DTE team, and welcome to anybody who's new. I got a couple subscribers based on that podcast, so I'm feeling extra special today. Um, so yeah, these videos for anybody who hasn't watched them before, they're pretty unstructured so far. I'm just kind of getting started, so they will get prettier as time goes on. But really, the main thing is just to kind of go through that warm-up document, explain exactly what's going on, and hopefully give you all decent insight into the trading day and also kind of a bigger macro overview as well. So we're going to start obviously with the overall macro chart. We're always looking at that volume profile first, and you can see here that the value area low for the year remains around that 3660 level. This level is huge for me. In the warm-up document, you'll see exactly why, and really, I'm going to read you exactly what I wrote down here. So really, as soon as we start to build time and volume above that level, it's right now it's the prior day's high. I think we're looking for a quick move to 3,700. I think that's going to be a nice little 40-point squeeze once we can pop in there, where we're going to kind of fill this gap and pop right into this box. Obviously, nothing's for certain, but I think that's going to be a really nice little breakout trade when we do get that. So I'm watching closely. However, the trend is still down. There's still plenty of supply there, and so the first kind of foray into that, remember all levels are SPX, into that 36.35 to 36.55 SPX zone, I'm going to sell that. But when you start to see that time and volume build above that prior day high, that's kind of when we're going to want to look for that sustained move. We've hit this 36.30 level so many times, and if you go back, it reminds me of in June here, where we just kind of consolidated around that 4100 area. They kept buying it, and then finally they just gave it up. So I'm seeing it's not quite as dramatic, just because we haven't had that much time hanging out there in terms of on the daily chart, but intraday we've just been hitting it and hitting it. So I will be looking kind of for that squeeze. Will it happen today? Probably not. We have that big news tomorrow, and obviously the news can mess everything up and completely change the outlook of the chart. But I am looking for that trade, which is why I have that long delta in my portfolio. And I'll go over my portfolio at the end here, but that's just kind of what I'm watching. You see this little green box that we're kind of wicking through and creating excess. I'm just going to pop over to the intraday chart real quick to show you what's going on there. This is that island value area from kind of that earlier low. So we've gone into it, we've tested, we've been accumulating, and now we're trying to kind of squeeze out of it. And the reason that we're seeing that chop is you can see we've built a good amount of supply from about, this is ES now, from about 3620 to about, say, 3650. And that's just kind of acting like gravity and pushing price down. So again, as soon as we start to pop above that, I'm looking a little higher. I'm looking on SPX at that really that 60 area, 50 to 60 in SPX. Once we start to kind of build volume, time and volume there, that's when we'll look for a defeat of that zone here. So this is just a 4-hour chart over here. I use this to kind of just get our value area for the week, and we're still below it. So if we just zoom in a little bit here, the value area for the week really begins at about 3,600 on SPX, and we still are not accepting it. We're still getting rejected. As I began this video, we had a nice little run up to test it, but we're still getting rejected. So again, price is still telling us that it wants to explore lower, but I just see it as we're accumulating in that demand zone. It's a pretty big demand zone. Obviously, it's the lower of the year, and I'm expecting us to kind of break up through it, and that's when I'll look for that false break trade that I really like and that you can see in the setups. So that's really the macro look. I think it's really revolves around that 3630 and then that prior day high from yesterday. So just one more thing to touch on. Again, we're preceding news today, so I don't really need to get too long-winded here. We're looking at the VIX. So why Garrett did you flip from short delta into long delta, even though price was kind of moving lower? To me, it was this break of this trend line. This is from Friday. We kind of broke below it. This was yesterday, and I did go long here. Again, it's a risk reward equation where price is not telling us that we're going back up. So for me, I know where my stop is. The stop is a lower low. It'll be annoying. Nobody likes to lose money, but I just like the risk reward. I like the way the VIX is behaving. I like that earlier this morning we made a lower low relative to prior day, yet we made a lower high in the VIX. And yeah, I just like the look of that VIX chart. I like the risk reward. So to me, you'll hear me talk about the VIX all the time. This is the most important chart to me. I actually care more about what's going on in the VIX than what's going on in the actual market because I think that the market's super trap prone. You have a lot of really strong traders and a lot of institutions kind of going back and forth. I just find it easier to kind of read what the VIX is doing and to maintain delta that way. Um, so just that's a pretty good segue into my portfolio itself. I'm always looking at these beta weighted deltas. I'll keep my portfolio at a certain beta weighted delta based on conviction. If I'm super strong conviction, that's going to be about 1,000. If I'm kind of not so sure, I will keep that directional, usually at about 200-ish deltas. And here you can see I'm a little higher on the beta weighted deltas, just because again I'm looking for that strong risk reward. I like my stops. I think it's easy stops. And so that's kind of why I have my deltas like that. Nothing too crazy. You can see the SPY position is out 38 days, and that's just a pure volatility play because IVR is so high in there. The SPX position, this is just based on the nucleus today. And I will, add to that and adjust it as time goes on if the market tells me to. Again, based on that setups document, I'm going to kind of so it's September 21st newsletter has those setups in it. I'm going to condense that in that LinkedIn post I referenced in the newsletter. Yeah, and then besides that, ES this is kind of my big play, my long shot play. Right now it looks like this. So I'm just going to show you the curve view. We zoom out. It'll let me. Okay, so obviously it looks like I'm playing for a long shot with a likely $1.5 thousand dollar profit with a $4,000 risk reward. That this will change. So I'm hoping that the market pops up to about this 3750 area. So right where I'm talking about that breakout box, I will put a short on there. And if it continues, that'll be fine. I'll have long delta in my portfolio that I'll adjust it accordingly. So this will change as we pop up into there. And if we make a new low, I'm simply going to cut losses. So losses are right now in this position about $700. I was short from about 3650 to 3600 yesterday, so I have a nice little profit blanket on that so far. So yeah, so if it stops out, I'll be a little bit in the red on that overall trade, but thanks to the short delta over the weekend, it'll be fine. So yeah, that's how I play it, guys. I'm always looking at that beta weighted delta and just adjusting my assumption based on that. And then intraday, I'm just playing these setups based on what you see in that newsletter. Again, I'm going to condense that and make it prettier sometime this week. And obviously you'll have the benefit of that. But until then, it's that September 21st FOMC special newsletter. So I'm going to try to include this portfolio piece as time goes on, just so we can talk about not only what's going on in the tape, but exactly how I'm seeing it, how I think that, how I will be stopping out myself. And yeah, so that's going to be today's. Again, it's going to be probably a neutral chop day. They might try some squeezes up into here, but I wouldn't expect anything too dramatic because we got a really big day tomorrow. It's going to be exciting, and I will talk to you then.